Our next presenter is Dr. Linda Lee, a professor in the Department of Physical Therapy at UBC and a senior scientist at Arthritis Research Canada. Dr. Lee has examined the value of extended roles of physiotherapists and occupational therapists in the management of rheumatoid arthritis. Her research has challenged the thinking around traditional roles of rehabilitation therapists in arthritis care. Speaking on stepping out or stepping aside, activity trackers and arthritis, please welcome ARC scientist Dr. Linda Lee.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and I want to thank the organizer for inviting me back to share with you some of our work around physical activity, and I would like to particularly welcome those of you online watching this webinar. So last year, I had a chance to share with you some of the results of our pilot study that tests a physical activity counseling program, and it has three simple components. First of all, people will get some information, some education around how to be active safely without hurting their joint, and also work with a physiotherapist on how to set realistic goals to be active. And then they're given a Fitbit to track their activity and get some feedback about how they're doing. And lastly, they will get a phone call from the therapist to check on their goals and modify it over time so it makes progress. What we found was that there was actually a trend of improvement after the 1-month intervention in the pilot study. So we move on. In 2017, we published the paper, and we also learned a lot from this process in order to design and refine the counseling program. And now we're in the place to actually test whether the program is working and whether the effect would last. And this program is called Monitor OA, specifically for people with osteoarthritis. And today I'd like to share with you some of the results. And I think you're actually the first group who's listening to this result. And so this is such a happy occasion for me and the team. So I think you heard a lot today that really being physically active is important, and it does a lot of good things about our body, our joint, and now we hear from Cheryl that it's actually good for our brain. How good is that? So because of all the benefits about being physically active, there is a global initiative called Exercise is Medicine, and it's really trying to help the public to increase awareness about the good things about being physically active, as well as giving health professionals the tools to do better counseling for individuals to be active in their everyday life. So now when we're talking about being active, we're not just talking about moving more. We're also talking about sitting less. Those are two very different behaviors, if you come to think of it. So when we talk about moving more, the guideline for being active says that we need to move around and moderate, type of activities, such as going out for a quick walk or, cycling or going to pool exercise program for about 30 minutes for most days of the week. And all of these components, you don't have to do all 30 minutes at a time. You can cut it up into 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and you still get the health benefit. The idea of sitting less is relatively new, but now I think we're all convinced that sitting is the new smoking. So how do we do that to get the health benefit? What has been recommended in research is that ideally we need to get up and walk around every 20 to 30 minutes of sitting. But sometimes it's not feasible. So I think at least we need to move around every hour of sitting during the day when we're awake. So one of the things that we really try to do in the Monitor OA program is that we're not trying to only encourage the behavior of moving more, but really want to target the idea of sitting less. Now, as you've heard from the earlier speakers, that a lot of the apps and wearables available in the health sector, and some of these wearable devices also comes with their own apps that gives you an idea about your performance. So as I was preparing for this talk yesterday, I was, a little bit distracted. So of course, you procrastinate, going on the web. And what did I do? I just Googled the question: how many healthcare apps are there? Okay, anybody want to guess? Just healthcare apps, Cheryl. Not all apps. Healthcare apps. 12,000. 40,000. Healthcare app. Okay, well, it's somewhere in between. So the first two pieces that came out in the Google was from a study that was done in the U.S. By the IMS Institute for Healthcare Informatics. That was 2015, and they said that there was about 165,000 healthcare apps available. The data is probably totally outdated because it's 2 years later, but the point is that there are lots of options. The question is that, do they work? So in the Monitor OA project, we asked this specific question: did the physical activity counseling program, with the use of a Fitbit, improve the active time of people with knee osteoarthritis? And here's what we did. We recruited people with knee pain, knee osteoarthritis. We then give them a 50-50 chance, randomly assign them into either getting the counseling program immediately in the immediate group, or there's a bit of a delay for them to get the intervention. So in the immediate group, what they did was that they get the Fitbit and the counseling, and then after 2 months of counseling, it ends, and they don't see a physiotherapist, or they don't get a phone call from the physiotherapist anymore, but they got to keep the Fitbit all the way till the end of 6 months. Now, for the delay group, they have a 2-month wait, and then they get the same counseling with the Fitbit and with the physiotherapist. And then they get this 2 months, for 2 months, and then at the end, they will, therapists will not calling them anymore, but they get to keep the Fitbit at the end. This is what we found. So in a year, last year, we recruited 61 people who were eligible. 30 of them were in the immediate group, and 31 were in the delay group. 15 of them were women. The average age was 62 years, and about 49%, nearly half of them, said that their health was excellent or very good at the time when they enter into the study. Before I show you the results, I just want to give you an idea what we're looking at. People who were at Roar last year have seen that, but I think it's worth doing again. So this is the ideal case. Okay, so in our study, we measure a variety of things, including their people's activity time, their health, and so on and so forth. So we did that at the beginning, and then we did every 2 months, at the end of 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months. So there are 3 things that we're looking at, or I'll talk about today for the result. First of all, we want to know that did the counseling program actually make a difference at the end of a 2-month period? So, and this is the circle that you're seeing here, with the orange line being the immediate group, and the blue line is, the dotted line is the delay group. So at that time, only half of the people get the counseling. So we want to know whether it made a difference. And as you can see here, the orange line went up. The blue line did pretty much nothing. So it suggests that they may have an effect there for the treatment. The second thing is that we wanted to know whether the 2-month wait actually affects people's chances of responding to the treatment. So the whole idea that if we ask people to wait to receive the intervention itself, did it make them respond less as compared to getting the treatment right away? That's always the question in patient and health professionals' mind, that, do you need to get the care right away, or can you wait? So in here you can see that what we're looking at then is the slope of the two groups, that whether they are heading in this direction in about the same way. The third thing we're looking at is that after the treatment, did the effect last? And so this is the third circle there, that in the ideal case, when everybody got the treatment, or the counseling at the end, that they improve and it lasts for the next 2 months when they were not listening or hearing from the physiotherapist anymore. So here, those are the 3 things I'm going to talk about today for 3 different measures that may be of interest to you. Here's the real world. It's messy. So for the scientists in the audience, I know you like numbers, so I put the numbers just for you guys, but for the rest of us, we're looking at the diagram on the right-hand side. So first of all, we are seeing that at the 2 months time frame for the active physical activity time, this is our primary outcome. This is the first thing that we want to change in terms of people's behavior in being active. And we see that at the end of 2 months, people actually spend more time in being active. And in the group, the blue dotted line where people were still waiting for the treatment, there was actually a bit of a decrease. We look at whether the 2-month wait actually make a difference in terms of how people improve, and it looks like the rate of improvement was quite similar in the 2 groups. But what we also found was that at the end of the study, when both groups received the intervention, after a while, it looks like the effect wears off a little bit, pretty much close to when we were at the beginning in the immediate group. We also look at the step count. The step count looks a bit better in terms of the result. So you see that there's improvement in 2 months in the immediate group compared to the delay group. We saw that the improvement, the rate of improvement was quite similar for the 2 groups, despite the 2-month wait for the delay group, and that the effect actually lasts all the way to the end of the study. So that's sort of what we've expected as an outcome, and it suggests that the intervention that the program that we put together actually may have some effect. Now, here is the other thing that we're trying to intervene, which is to reduce the sitting time, and the picture does not look as good, does it? For this outcome, the less when the slope goes down for the sitting time, less sitting time is actually better. Okay, so you can see that the orange line actually went down a little bit, suggesting that there was some improvement in the sitting time in the immediate group, but the difference was not significant between the 2 groups. We also saw that, unfortunately, for the delay group, by the time when they started getting the program, it didn't actually do all that much in changing their sitting behavior. And at the end, it really does not look like it was doing a whole lot. So now we're throwing our hands. What happened? We have an intervention that we really target 2 things. We did one thing, and the other one is not working so well. So the first thing we went back was, to look at, is there something that we can actually improve on? We will look at the counseling protocol that we use. In the activity time, we certainly want to have people to tell us a little bit more about how to stay active and look at the challenges and setting realistic goals. Physiotherapists in the study and also worldwide know how to do that really well. That's what we're trained to do. We also refined our protocol last time from the pilot study to look at how to break up the sitting time. And instead of asking people, well, what would you do to break up your sitting? We start analyzing the day. So we ask people, tell us a typical work day, a day in a work day, and a typical day in a weekend. And so when we interview participants and the therapists in the study, they actually told us that, well, we did that quite well. But one of the things that we realized in this study was that we asked people to use the app from Fitbit. And for those of you who use Fitbit, you're probably familiar with this picture. Now, if you want to get some feedback about whether you break up your sitting time, there was this picture in the middle with the happy man. Nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't really tell you the information in the context of all the other things that you're doing. So you know that, of the 9 hours that you set as the goal to break up your sitting, 6 of them you actually get up and move around. But for the hours that you were not moving around, if you look at it 3 months later, you probably don't remember why you were not moving around. So what we did with this information was that we partnered with people at Simon Fraser University Computer Science and developed a new app to help people visualize the sitting time a bit better. So specifically, we're clearer around the goals and that whether they're meeting the non-sedentary time or the non-sitting time. But also, we give them very clear signals. See those little walking mans at the bottom? That they can actually see where chunks of times where they were doing really well, breaking up the sitting, and there are chunks of times that they're not doing so well. So for example, between 8 to 10 in the morning for this person, you can see that, well, must be something, happen. Perhaps, there are ways that they can get up and walk around a little bit more. As compared to the 15, 16 over on the right side, 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the person probably not moving around as much, probably because they were doing a lot of activities where you see in the green bar up there, and they were resting. So the 3 to 4 o'clock non-moving time is probably a legitimate thing to do, but where therapists can do counseling and as a feedback for the individual, this gives a much clearer idea that, between 8 to 10 in the morning, maybe that's somewhere we can find some way to think about how to break up the sitting. So now sometimes people stop being active, probably because they were not able or giving up some of the things that they enjoy. For example, if people enjoy running, they may stop when they have knee osteoarthritis because their knee hurt. But sometimes people just frankly worry that running is going to hurt their knee, which is a misconception in many circumstances. So what I'm showing here is actually a sidetrack a little bit that one of my colleagues, Dr. Michael Hunt, also a scientist at Arthritis Research Canada, is doing this really neat survey that he wants to find out what does the public think about the effect of running on knee joint health. If you want to have more information about that, there's some cards that you can pick up, and he particularly wanted to hear from people who are not runners. They want to know why you're not running. Okay, so very important information, very important research, and we'll appreciate knowing that from you. So in summary, I think that tools like wearables and apps can really make healthcare more person-centered. In our study, it gives some idea that these tools may actually be able to help to improve physical activity. We need to do better in terms of reducing the sitting behavior, and we are going there. We're actually running a study inviting people with rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and osteoarthritis to test the program with the new app. Final thought, I think if we want to see where healthcare is going in the future, oftentimes it helps to look at what is happening in the business, in the tech sector today. In the business sector, especially in the US, there are places that actually encourage their employees to BYOW, bring your own wearable, to work. So what they do is that they actually download, especially in the sales sector, they ask you to download the product information into your smartwatch, so when you go out and meet with your clients, you can actually have the information in your fingertips. So the question here is that, well, will BIOW be the future for us to access care and be better communicating with our health professionals? Well, I don't know, but I think some of the study and the work that are done by scientists at Arthritis Research Canada can probably help us understand a bit better how to design and use these tools, and hopefully will transform the healthcare that we receive in the future. I cannot end without acknowledging important people like Dr. Lynn Feehan and Dr. Chris Shaw, who helped to build the application, as well as many wonderful staff, as well as the students and patient partners, without whom the study cannot happen. Thank you very much.